Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be taking this MG4 Luxury with the 64 kilowatts an hour battery onto our typical range test, meaning 88 kilometers, the same distance, and 4 different speed tests, one with 85 kilometers an hour behind a truck, 120, 140 and top speed, to see the average consumption, the time it takes, the theoretical cost it's going to take, and everything that you basically need to know about this car. On here we have 18-inch rims in the front and in the rear, which are on Bridgestone T005 EV tires. The car has a CV value of 0.287, so fairly high, even though it looks very aerodynamic in my opinion. But like I said, we're going to look at everything. If you do enjoy these kind of videos, make sure to like, subscribe to get more of these kind of videos in the future. And make sure to check out the other content on the channel, because it does take around like 6 hours to make one of these videos, which is ridiculous. So hopefully you guys do enjoy and appreciate the time I put into this, but let's get right into it. So join me as we are driving behind the truck now at an average speed of around 85 kilometers an hour. We're doing this on our first test just to get the least drag coefficient that we can basically get. In the car we have a battery that has a size of 64 kilowatts an hour. Net usage of that is going to be 61.7. We are supposed to be able to get 435 kilometers of range with that. In the city, even 577, so a little bit more. WLTP claims around 16.6 kilowatts per hour, well, combined. So a fairly good consumption in my opinion. We're going to be able to see what we get on the 85 kilometers an hour test, on the 120, the 140, and then in the end, the top speed run, which we're going to cut to it after this. The car, in my opinion, looks pretty good from the outside. I also really do like the color. We have this special like blue color on here, which looks pretty cool. 42,000 euros. You can't really complain about that as well. Interior quality is also fairly decent. Very minimalistic in the interior. You have a very small digital cockpit, fairly small infotainment display, which in the press release said it's from 2022 that it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly. When I try to connect it, it says connected via a USB cable, so it doesn't have it in my opinion. Inductive loading, otherwise very minimalistic, but feels fairly decent here. I really love these headrests. They're really squishy and really nice, but this is the best thing I think. When you pull this down and then try to pull it back, I can do it with one finger. It just snips out so easily. And also listen to this. That is just a big thonk. But look at how easy this goes out. I'm not even trying to pull it back. I'm just trying to pull it up. Look, I'm going up and... okay, well, now it worked. But going up and it comes out. That could have maybe been a little bit of a better build quality. And you also get quite a lot of safety features. We have the luxury edition, so the third highest. You can get standard-wise just the normal one, then you get the comfort, the luxury, then you also theoretically get one with a bigger battery, which is going to be the 77 kilowatts an hour battery. That's the trophy extended range. However, max speed of that is only 4 kilowatts faster, so 144, and you're going to take 36 minutes to completely charge that car from 10 to 80%. So yeah, not the greatest. This one is going to take around 26 minutes. We're going to be able to see if we can get that later on with 140 kilowatts max charging speed. Lane keeping assistance also a little bit funky in here, typical like Chinese kind of technology where it really likes to do whatever it wants, especially in sharp corners. It just goes over onto the other line. So you really got to keep your hand on the steering wheel at all time, because in my opinion it just doesn't work the greatest. I have ACC on. You could also get the traffic jam assistant. I saw, for instance, Björn do that in Norway. He had traffic jam assistant on. That is even a little bit more funky than the ACC, but still not the greatest assistant when it comes to lane keeping assistant. Otherwise you get cameras on the side, 360-degree camera, traffic on, or blind spot assistant, rear warning, collision, stuff like that. Really good safety features for this price class, and you're also getting a 5-star NCAP norm. Here, for instance, you can see the assistant feature not really knowing what line it should follow, the white or the yellow one. If I cross it a little bit too far, there you go, it's trying to, drive me against the corner or the wall on the right side, and I have to go against it if I go a little bit too far left again. Let's see, look, there you go, it does the beep. I have plenty of space towards the left side, towards the yellow line, but it just only sees the white line, and therefore it doesn't feel safe. So in my opinion, if you're in construction zone, turn it off or keep your hand on the steering wheel the whole time. I'm gonna turn it off because honestly, this is just not feeling the greatest, and I don't want to cross that line and go into the wall. But yeah, just a little bit demonstration of why the assistant feature is not the greatest. So for some unknown reason, it has now turned nighttime. Totally not due to my stupidity of not judging the time correctly. But that means we are still going to be doing our 100, well, top speed test, which is going to be 160 with this car. At nighttime, that should be no issue because this car only goes 160, so safety is not going to be an issue. I've definitely driven a lot faster at night. What we're going to do is put it into sport mode, which we can do right there. That's just going to give us the most sporty feeling and just going to change the settings a little bit. This car is going to go from 0 to 100 in 7.9 seconds. It has 204 horsepower and 250 Newton meters with a top speed of 160 kilometers an hour. We're going to reset our tripometer to see what we can get. Top speed, okay, actually 171, as it says on the tachometer. If you do want a little bit more power, you can also get the X Power, which is going to have a top speed of, I don't know, but it's going to have 435 horsepower and also 600 Newton meters. So that's a little bit faster, but you don't actually get the bigger battery in there. You only get the 64th, so the same one as in here, which will result in only a range of around 350 kilometers, which is definitely not a lot. Wind noise in here is also quite loud, and you can hear the isolation, like I said, is not the best now. So quite loud in here. I definitely have to speak up so I can actually hear myself talk. If I would be sitting in here with another person cruising at 170, would not be the most comfortable thing. However, the car does feel fairly safe at 170. No issue of, well, driving at 170. There's no, the suspension isn't doing anything weird. Steering wheel is still fairly good, and it doesn't move around quite as much as you might expect. So I feel fairly confident driving this at 170. 170 is obviously not that high, but if you're driving an EV, you're most likely not going to be driving fast anyways. Apart from if you're driving the Hyundai Ioniq 5N, for instance. But yeah, feels fairly comfortable. Nothing really to complain about apart from the noise. But let's see what the consumption is at the end, and let's cut back to you with all of the details that you need. Let's start off with the 100 kilometers an hour test behind the truck. I was actually very surprised by these results, and I'm very happy about them. The car, just for reference, has a 61.7 kilowatts an hour net usage battery. I'm going to calculate everything from, well, driving the car from 100% down to 0, so you get the real estimated range, not something that you'd use over long trips, because you're never going to completely charge a car and then go down to 0%. You're mostly only going to use around 70-60% of the actual battery when driving over longer distance. So this range is a little bit, well, fluctuated. If we take a look at the first one, we had average consumption of 10.2 kilowatts an hour, which is actually the lowest and surprisingly lower than the most efficient one so far, which was the Ioniq 6. And the Ioniq 6 is a very efficient car with the 0.21 drag coefficient, and this one being 0.287. I was actually very surprised about that. The average speed was 84.4 kilometers an hour, so we had a fairly fast truck in front of us, and it took us a total time of 62 minutes. With that, you'd get a theoretical range out of the battery of 605 kilometers, again, if you were to use 100% of the battery. That would cost you €5 if you calculate it with the 49 cents from ENBW, which is also going to cost you $5.99 per month. The 120 kilometers an hour test, we had 16.9 kilowatts an hour of fuel or energy consumption. That is 2 kilowatts an hour higher than the Ioniq 6, just for reference, and just on par with the Enyaq, which was the Skoda Enyaq 85X. There we had a total speed, or an average speed, of 109 kilometers an hour, so a very good value, and it took us a total time of 48 minutes. That would give you a theoretical range of 365 kilometers, with a cost of €8.28. 140 kilometers an hour test, we had 22.8 kilowatts an hour consumption. That is going to be, due to the fact that we also had a little bit of traffic jam, so that would theoretically be a little bit higher, but we still had a fairly decent run. 102.59 was our average kilometers an hour, with a total time of 51 minutes. That would give you a theoretical range of 271 kilometers, with a price of €11.17. For the top speed one, we had an average consumption of 26.6 kilowatts an hour with an average speed of 130.8 kilometers an hour, which is good for a car that has a top speed of 171 kilometers an hour. So that was a very surprising value. The total time took us 40 minutes and theoretical range would be 232 kilometers. So in theory, around 150 kilometers before you had to charge again. That would also cost you a total of 13.03 euros per 100 kilometers. If you are interested in more videos like these, I would very much appreciate that. I will also in the future upload a link down in the description where you can look at a spreadsheet of all the cars we have tested on there with their starting price, their battery type, heat pump, WLTP, stuff like that. Also the combustion engine cars, just so you can, well, get a comparison between all the cars we have tested so far. Would be very interesting to do this with the ID3, because the ID3 is a, well, main competitor of the MG4, so that would be a very interesting video for the future. Hopefully you did enjoy. We'll see you next time. Bye bye.